Alright, so hi, my name is Moni Begum. I'm the EHS Fire Safety Specialist. And today we're going to go over autoclaves, so how to properly use autoclaves and make sure that they're maintained properly. So this is going to be our objectives, the autoclave basics, what are autoclaves, how do they function, the essentials for those who work with autoclaves. So you guys have to make sure that you know how to wear the proper PPE when you're handling autoclaves, and then how to load and unload your contents from the autoclaves. There's some stuff that we have to do to make sure the autoclaves are working properly and they're maintained properly, and I'll give you some Georgia-specific information as well. So the purpose of the training is to make sure that you're safe when you're handling autoclaves. Autoclaves are very expensive, so we have to make sure that we know how to maintain them properly and how to use them properly. And then in case something goes wrong, who to contact and to make sure that's functioning properly again. And also for sterilizer efficacy, if you're ever decontaminating waste using an autoclave, you have to make sure that it's working properly, and I'll cover that as well. So what is an autoclave? It's basically a vessel that can handle high pressure and steam heated temperature. So using pressure and steam, it's able to raise the temperature like a very high level, like have very high temperatures, and that's used to kill any pathogen or microorganisms that might be present in your load. So let's say if you want to sterilize your media, your these broth solutions, or even biological waste, this is like the perfect equipment to do that. And it comes in a variety of sizes. This is like what the common autoclave looks like. Some autoclaves are smaller, like you can have tabletop autoclaves. Some autoclaves are bigger, like for industrial purposes. So I think most of the ones here are like about this size. So what are autoclaves used for? They're used in research to sterilize, so sterilize biological waste, to sterilize equipment, to sterilize their solutions again. In medicine, for sterilization of surgical equipment, you go to your dental office, all those equipments, they need to be autoclaved to make sure that they're decontaminated and sterilized. And in the chemical industries, they use it to create dyes or to have certain reactions. So the main purpose of an autoclave is to sterilize. So decontaminate and sterilize, they're like same almost. And they kill anything that's microbiological. So anything that comes from microbial origin, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, spores, basically anything that's alive can be killed using an autoclave. And but there are some exceptions to it. If you have like heat-resistant bacteria or prions, these cannot be autoclaved. You have to use alternative method to sterilize them. So you would use chemical methods or use incineration. So how does autoclave work? There's two types of cycles, prevac and gravity. To describe gravity, so this is like what the interior of an autoclave is. You're gonna have a steam supply and a steam exhaust. So in the gravity cycle, steam is gonna come in and then push whatever air is inside the autoclave out. And gravity cycles is not that harsh, and like the environment is not that harsh. So glassware, unwrapped goods, waste and utensils are good with gravity cycles compared to prevac cycles, where in prevac the air is first exhausted out and then you have the steam coming in. So this creates a more harsher environment, so you can't like really put everything in prevac. And the type of items that go in prevac are wrapped goods, animal bedding, or cages, because they're more sturdy. They can withstand the high temperature and pressure. And then there's also liquid cycles that's very popular among laboratory users. So liquid cycle is a gravity cycle, but it has a slower exhaust rate, so it's not like overboiling. And in the liquid cycle, you would use media, broth, water, and any other liquid solutions.
Could you speak a little bit louder, please?
Sure, sorry. All right. So there are multiple items that you can autoclave and lots of items that you cannot autoclave. So items that are safe to autoclaves are stainless steels, glassware, heat stable plastics. So I'll go over the different types of plastics, of what's autoclavable and what's not autoclavable. Biological waste, autoclave bags that are rated autoclavable, animal bedding and cages. There are certain items that are not autoclavable. So the EHS provided bags, so the red bags that you get from with the bio boxes from EHS, those are not rated for autoclave. So if you autoclave those bags, they're just gonna melt. And you're not allowed to autoclave radioactive materials, chemicals, or any non-heat or non-water resistant materials. So these are the plastics that you should be aware of. Anytime you're confused, like whether a plastic is autoclavable or not autoclavable, you can always contact the manufacturer or contact the vendor and look at the SDS. So 2 types of plastics are safe to autoclave, polypropylene and polycarbonate. And the list of items, plastics that are not autoclavable are polystyrene, polyethylene, low density, high density polyethylene, and polyurethane. So if you have any plastics, whether it's like bags or any other plastics that you want to autoclave, make sure they don't fall under under that list, not safe to autoclave list. What about chemicals? So again, autoclaves are used to decontaminate biological materials or pathogens, microorganisms. You're not allowed to put chemicals inside autoclaves. So nothing flammable should go in the autoclave, no acids or bases should go in the autoclave. Bleach definitely should not go in the autoclave. I've had an issue with somebody from another institution, not here, where they decided to use bleach to decontaminate their liquid microbiological waste, and they wanted to make sure that it's really, the organism is really killed. So bleach already kills any pathogen that's in a liquid if you use 10% bleach. But anyway, so they wanted to make sure that it's really killed, so they wanted to autoclave as well. So and they did it, and you should not do that because bleach can cause chlorine gas once it's in the autoclave. So just avoid putting any sort of chemicals inside the autoclave. If you have any liquid waste that's mixed with autoclave/chemicals, just contact EHS and we'll pick it up for you. So for loading your contents inside the autoclave, first you have to make sure that you allow steam to reach your contents. So the way that steam is able to decontaminate or sterilize your content is it needs to have direct contact. So if you have bags that you tighten it too much, or if you close your bottles where the steam cannot go in, it's not going to function. So you have to let it loose. If you put bags inside the autoclave, make sure that it's not tied too tightly. If you have bottles or flasks, you can use aluminum foil and just not tighten it, just cover it loosely, and make sure that they're not overfilled. If you have liquid bottles or flasks that are way maximally filled while inside the autoclave, they're gonna boil over and spill. So having 50% full or 75% full is ideal. When you're putting materials inside the autoclave, make sure it's not overpacked. You should have space between the sides. And always use a secondary container that's autoclavable as well. So use the recommended plastic as well, or you can use stainless steel secondary containers. And when you close the door of the autoclave, make sure that it's shut properly so that heat doesn't come out. When you're unloading, when you're taking things out of the autoclave, make sure the pressure reaches 0 before you open the autoclave, and then let the contents cool before you take them out. And don't handle very hot flasks or liquids. Make sure you're wearing proper PPE, so you should wear heat-resistant gloves when you're taking stuff out of the autoclave. I've had another incident in another institution where somebody wore nitrile gloves and they touched hot flasks with their hands, and the glove melted and reached their skin. So be careful with that. So we always wear heat-resistant gloves when you're taking materials out of the autoclave. So the do's and the don'ts. The do's is very similar in terms of PPE, regardless of what type of what type of hazards to handle. So make sure you're always wearing lab coat, gloves that are heat resistant, your safety glasses to make sure that you protect your eyes, and closed-toe shoes. And then again, when you're loading your materials in the autoclave, always use a secondary container so that it can catch any spills, or in case something melts, it can have it contained. The use of secondary container is also very important. I had another incident where somebody decided to autoclave regular garbage. Like they had their biological waste in regular garbage, and they thought that it would be fine to autoclave that, and they didn't use a secondary container, and everything just melted. And it cost the lab it was a very expensive to fix. So just be careful and always use a secondary container. And if you're ever like autoclaving biological waste, make sure you double bag it so that there's no like holes or punctures in the bag, and use secondary containers for that as well. The don'ts when you're using autoclave. So I'm sure everybody uses autoclave tapes, right, when you're autoclaving. Okay, so the autoclave tapes just tells you that the surface of the container reached the right temperature. So it can contain lead. It can contain lead, so don't throw it out in the regular garbage. But once you're done, throw the tape out in the biological waste box. And don't put, like if you ever autoclave biological waste, don't put the autoclave waste in the regular garbage. Our method of waste disposal is the same regardless of whether it's autoclave or not autoclave. We send everything for incineration, so once you have waste, it must go in those biohazardous boxes, and it's going to be picked up by our office. When you're like putting materials inside, don't seal it. Make sure that there's enough room for steam to get in, and don't overcrowd your materials such that it touches the side of the autoclave, and don't put any chemicals, radioactive materials, or corrosive items in the autoclave. So we have a surface contractor, so Geringa is our surface contractor. They perform 4 checks a year per autoclave, per building autoclave, and then they also do an annual maintenance, and they fix any repairs. So if you see that your autoclave is not working, don't try to fix it yourself. Just contact Geringa or contact EHS, and we'll fix it for you. So we have responsibilities as well. Ours is to teach the researchers how to use the autoclave safely. We coordinate, we get in touch with Geringa and the researchers to make sure that the autoclaves are properly repaired or maintained, and we're like a resource tool. So anytime you have any questions, you can always contact us for anything. And then the researchers, they have their own responsibilities as well. So every time you use an autoclave, you're supposed to have a user log, and I'll go over what the user log should have. And so anytime you use autoclave, make sure you fill in the log. Make sure you use the autoclave properly, so everything, all the do's and don'ts, and report any problems to EHS. So the user log, it should have the date, the time, who is operating the autoclave, the contact information, so that the person can be reached in case something happens to the autoclave and their load is still inside. What is being put inside the autoclave, and you should report the temperature, pressure, and the length that the contact is going to be inside the autoclave. So this should be filled out each time the autoclave is used. So biological indicators, they're used for biohazardous waste. So before, I guess, Georgia Tech used to allow researchers to decontaminate their waste using autoclaves. Right now, we don't do that anymore. So you don't have to autoclave your waste unless you're like an animal facility. So in regular research labs, you do not have to autoclave your waste, but if you really want to, you can, but you have to make sure that the autoclaves are properly, it's actually decontaminated, and you have to use biological indicators or spore strips to make sure that it's properly decontaminated. So how the biological indicators work is that they have a heat-resistant bacteria inside the indicator, and you put that indicator in the middle of the load, and then you do your cycle, and then once that's done, you check if there's bacterial growth or not. If there's bacterial growth inside the indicator, that means your autoclave cycle wasn't sufficient for that load. But if there's no growth, that means it was sufficient. So you have to have a control as well. Anyways, so to avoid like the use of biological indicators, we just send all of our waste to incineration. Because let's say if you have a bio waste that hasn't been contaminated or decontaminated properly, and then it ends up in the regular landfill, like Georgia Tech can get in trouble if something goes up in there. So just to be safe, make sure even if you autoclave your biological waste, always put it in those bio boxes so that it's set for incineration. And when you're using those bio boxes, you need to select what type of waste you have in there. So remember to properly and safely use autoclaves, maintain the user logs, and the user log is also important. Like let's say if the autoclave malfunctions during one of your cycles, it's important for us to know what's in there, like whether it's safe or not for us to open it, and then to get it fixed, and like we can also like give the item back to the lab if they want it back, and report any problems to EHS or Gettinga. Verify that if you are autoclaving your biological waste, make sure it's decontaminated properly, and then dispose of the waste after autoclaving properly. So put it in those bio boxes and not in the regular trash. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us. This is like the biosafety team at EHS. And sorry, I forgot to introduce my colleague Shane Gaguli. He's also the associate safety officer. He can help you with anything. So that was like the end of the course, but I'll go over some questions that like, hopefully you guys retain hopefully you retain some of the information that was provided. So let's go over like 5 or 6 questions. So what biological agent is not sterilized by an autoclave?
B.
Brian. So which of this is not safe to use in an autoclave? B. So you can use stainless steel, you can use glass, you can use pipette in autoclaves, but the regular orange bags are not suitable for autoclaves. Which of this plastic is not safe for autoclaving?
B.
B. So polyethylene, please do not autoclave those. Which of the following is appropriate to do while using an autoclave? So throwing autoclave waste inside the regular garbage. B. Using a secondary container for loads. C. Autoclaving a liquid solution containing bleach. D. Throwing out used autoclave tape away in the regular garbage. B. So make sure you always use a secondary container for any load. Which of the following isn't required to be on an autoclave usage log? Do you need the date and time? Do you need the years of experience you have? So it's B. And you need the contact information and description. Which of the following, which is something you wouldn't consider while you're loading your load inside an autoclave? So waiting for your waste to cool down. B. Leaving bags open. C. Spacing out waste with room in between items. D. Making sure the door is securely locked.
A, but it's kind of a poor question.
Exactly, sorry. So you wouldn't care about like the waste being cooled down while you're loading the items. That's like after you're, like when you're unloading it. So any items that's in the autoclave and you want to unload it, make sure it's cooled down. So which is a routine responsibility for an autoclave user? Maintaining a usage log with every use, reporting any autoclave problems to EHS, properly disposing of waste after running through the autoclave, and D, all of the above. D. And that's it for my presentation. So we'll have a tour with Gettinga, two autoclaves, I believe. Where's Michelle? Do you guys have any questions?
If it's below 20 pounds of pressure, it's not going to operate properly. So open the door, wait 10 minutes, and then if it's not set at between 25 pounds or so, close the door all the way and make sure it's good and tight. This should engage the steam to jacket. The steam to jacket should go up to 25, 26 pounds. When it reaches that, then you can start your next cycle. The biggest issue that we've had is if somebody comes in here in the evening and runs a liquid cycle and leaves. The next day, the guy comes in, opens the door, takes the stuff out, and tries to start a cycle. Even if you wait until the next morning, you have to wait the 10 minutes for that to go away. Then you gotta, load it up, make sure it's up here to 25 pounds of pressure, and then you can start. That's basically the only thing that you need to be concerned about. There is a shut-off switch down here, and that will turn off everything. The boiler and the autoclave. And when it comes back up, it will ask if you want to run. Oh, sorry, ran a complete cycle. Okay. And then this, obviously the screen gives you your options, liquid or gravity. You just push on gravity. Make sure the door is good and closed. And then you push the button twice. It will purge, like they said in the seminar. What is happening is steam is coming into the top of the chamber and pushing air out of the chamber. It will purge for 1 minute, and then it will go into what we call charge or heat up, which will be putting steam into the autoclave. It will reach temperature, and whatever it's set for, this is set for 7 minutes, it will sit and sterilize for 7 minutes. This is just a test cycle that I set up for this morning. So, anybody have any questions?
What do you do if the pressure isn't at the right place? Like, do you reset it?
If it's not up here between 20 and 30, don't start it because it's just going to fail.
What can you do to get the pressure right down?
I'm sorry?
What can you do to make the pressure correct itself if it's not?
There's nothing you can do. These are set precisely where they need to be. And the one on the second floor, one of the reasons we're having issues with it now is because somebody has monkeyed with it. And we got to figure out exactly where it needs to be. And as you can see, it's charging now. It's already up to 118. It doesn't take very long for this one to heat up. Usually if it's not up to pressure, like you're talking about, there is a boiler right here. And that is usually a boiler issue, not an autoclave issue. But it could be somebody messed with these knobs. And that's pretty much it. It's just, and then you wait for the cycle to end and then remove your items. The 10-minute countdown after a liquid cycle is for safety purposes, because even though it's completed, the liquid could boil over if you move it, and I've been burned quite a few times, so I know from experience. So, well, obviously somebody's running a cycle in this unit, which this is identical to the unit down on the first floor except for the door. You just lock it and open it. You don't have to spin the submarine handle, as we call it. And you have to make sure it's fully closed before you can lock it. And if there's any pressure on the machine, it will not lock, it will not unlock. So if that happens, you need to call the 1-800 number and give them the serial number. As far as running the machine, the same goes for this machine, except for, the screen is just scroll down and scroll up, a little more user friendly. We Haven't had any problems with this machine, thank goodness, in a while, so. When the liquid cycle's over, open the door, let it run down to 10 minutes, and then remove the items. Close the door back, and then you're gonna have to, the display will show up here whether it's ready to start or not. And once it says you can start it, then you just start the next cycle. But other than that, if there's a problem, it's usually the boiler. The boiler's behind the door next to it. There's no reason for you guys to even go near that because it's extremely hot, extremely dangerous. So, that's basically it. It's the same machine, just different display, different electronics. And you all have
I have a question.
Okay.
I've been using this for 2 or 3 times, but I noticed that whenever you set up the time, and it says it's 1 hour, it always go to 1.5 hour or more. Why is like that?
Well, it's because it's just an estimated time.
Okay, so it's not accurate.
No.
Okay.
No. The more you run that particular cycle,
Yeah.
the closer it will get to the cycle. What they do is take an average and tell you, like if it takes an hour and a half, it could say an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes. It just depends on what the average is.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of times it depends on the boiler. The boiler's good and hot, or if the machine's hot, if it's been sitting cold. One thing that we have had problems with this machine is when you come in and you sign in, the boiler is usually shut down the same time the machine, if it's sitting blank, sitting idle, you have to log in, wait for the pressure to build up in the autoclave, or in the boiler, then build up into the autoclave before you can start the machine. If you try to start it too soon, it's going to say that's aborted, not enough steam,
Too long in charge.
undercharged. But that's because of the new sums. They shut that shuts the machine completely down, and of course the boiler has to heat back up. When the boiler gets to a certain amount of pressure, then it heats up the autoclave.
I want to add on something to that with the sum systems. If you are running a cycle and you know it's getting close to the end, some people have come into sums and logged off. Don't do that. That shuts off the boiler, shuts off, and you can't get your run done. It will not exhaust properly, or if it's in the middle of a cycle, it causes problems. You have to wait until the cycle is done before you log off sums.
Okay.